Hi folks. Today we're going to find out how to engage with students using PearDeck. PearDeck is a tool that's used with Google Slides, and it works through Google Slides extensions and add-ons. First thing I want to do is make sure I have the PearDeck extension. So I'm going to go to Extensions, Add-ons, Get Add-ons. I'm going to look for PearDeck for Google Slides add-on. And then I'm just going to add that. And I have that here, and I also have it within my add-ons menu drop-down. So here I'm going to launch my PearDeck add-on. And again, they've just released some new functionality within the tool. So there is a dialog box that comes up here. I'm just going to close this out. We're going to go through the look and the feel of the navigation is slightly different than it used to be. So if you've used it in the past, it does look a little bit different, but the functionality is the same. Today we're going to look at how we can engage students to activate prior knowledge, check for understanding within the middle of a lesson, and then at the end have students summarize what they know. All of this can happen in real time, but without having kids sharing in front of the class. They can share with you. You can see what students are saying in real time, but the information is not shared with the rest of the class. You can share group responses anonymously, so you can see what students have shared, but the rest of the class would not know who shared it. However, you as the teacher do have visibility into what each student has written, and you can follow with that student to follow based on their level of understanding. So in this case, we're going to look at these three types of interactions with students, kind of before, middle, and end, or before, during, and after of a particular lesson. So let's say we're setting up our slide deck for a lesson. So you would create all of your slides and use that to present to students. Within those slides, at some point, you want to build in some checks for understanding. So in this case, at the very beginning of a lesson, I'm going to add an item that allows me to see how students felt about homework from the night before. So I'm going to put in a slide here that says, what did you learn from the homework the night before? And in this case, I can change this to say, what did you learn from the video we watched last night? Either way, you can customize this, but in this case, students are going to be presented with a text slide, which then allows them to freeform enter their answer to this question. Again, it comes to you, and you decide whether or not to display answers anonymously to the class, or whether you just keep them for your own information to be able to follow up with students throughout the lesson. So in that case, that's the slide that they would start with. Presumably, you would be adding more content slides here. And let's say in the middle of the lesson, you want to just check for understanding. So in this case, I'm going to find a draggable slide, and that's just a name for a type of slide within a PearDeck, which allows students to drag an icon over to an answer. So in this case, they're going to just have a blue dot that they're going to drag to either keep going, I understand, I'm a little confused, or stop, I need help. Again, this slide would be served up to students. They would click and drag the icon to the place that matches their feelings at that particular time. And it allows you to make the decision at that point to say, do I want to stop and have a larger conversation? Do I need to have a small breakout group with just a small number of kids? Or is there one student that I need to follow up with directly because of their level of understanding at that particular time? And again, their answers are going to gauge how you react and interact with those students. So let's say we've gotten to, you're going to add more slides here. Now this is all done prior to your lesson. You're adding in these slides that you know are going to be presented to students, but you're building in those checks for understanding. Let's say at the very end of the lesson, we want to put in a slide that says, let's say someone was absent from class. How would you describe what you learned today? You could put that slide in. Again, it's an interactive slide that students are going to have to react to. They would have to type in their response, and they would tell you how they would tell another person about this particular lesson. And it gives you that indication as to where the students are at the end of the lesson, and can help you inform your instruction for the next day and going forward. Let's say I have all my slides ready to go. I'm just going to start my lesson, and I can choose to have it student-paced, where the students would choose to move through each of the slides on their own, or I can leave it as instructor-paced, where I decide when to move to the next slide and when students interact with specific slides. For now, I'm just going to choose instructor-paced, and in this case, it's launching the presentation. And here, it gives students the join information. They would go to joinpd.com, enter in this code, and they would be brought to our lesson. So here's the first screen that they would be greeted with. I would choose to go to the next slide with students, telling them, this is what we're going to learn today. And then here is our first slide. What did you learn from the video we watched last night? Students would then, those students that are in this PearDeck are going to be presented with a text box on their screen that they would then respond to. You, on your device, you could see what students are responding by opening up your dashboard. And we won't go into each of those different views, but you would look at the dashboard either in a new device on an iPad or a phone, or in a new window that you would not put up on the screen because you would want to keep students' responses anonymous. We've gotten to the middle of our presentation. Students would then click and drag the blue dot to whatever corresponding feeling they're having. You could then see all of the answers aggregated on your side and make a determination as to how you want to move with the lesson. And then finally, the wrap-up slide. Students again would enter in their information, and you would see everything coming to you, and you could make those determinations as to how to follow up with students. It gives you that in the moment, on the fly, anonymous feedback from students all at once without having to stop and ask each individual kid verbally what their thoughts are. It leads to a more honest and open communication, and hopefully allows you to better serve your students.